So let's first start by talking about the project sponsor role. And this is a very, very important role that you really, I would advise you have in any project, because you want sponsorship within your project as well as support. So it might be that hopefully you've got the CEO or the HR director on board, and they may well support your project, which is fantastic, but that isn't the same as actually sponsoring your initiative. And it's real sponsorship that you really want to try and get, because sponsorship involves the project sponsor taking a really active and visible role and being available to the project manager to unlock any doors and resolve any escalated issues where required. And just to bring this to life, so the best project sponsor that I ever worked with really understood the importance of providing real senior backup to me as the project manager. So he trusted that I wouldn't escalate very many things to him, and I didn't. I largely kept, I was running my project plan and running my activities on a day-to-day basis. But where I really did have to escalate something to him, on that rare occasion, he was absolutely fantastic at prioritising, putting the things that I needed him to, looking at the issues from my point of view, and crucially unlocking the doors to extra resource or time or budget, which obviously only a project sponsor can do. Importantly, the other thing that he did, and it would be great if your project sponsor did do, is really build a coalition of support amongst the other senior leaders in the organisation, because they will always take being communicated to far better from a peer, from someone else at their level than just from you as the project manager, important as you may be. Last thing I'd say about this role is you might want to consider having a steering group, which is a committee that the project manager probably reports into. Can sound a bit scary at the beginning, but in my experience can be a really useful place for you to escalate your issues to, and in which case the project sponsor would probably chair that steering group. Okay, the next role is the HR project manager. And this is an absolutely key role, obviously, and you want to free that project manager up to do a great job. So it's obviously really important to resource any project adequately. You've decided to put the money and the investment into this project for a really good reason, and so you want it to be a success. And part of that success will probably relate to how freed up the project manager is to be able to focus on this, either being fully dedicated to the project or mainly, depending on the complexity and the scale of the project. And that may not have to be for very long, depending on what the project is. So it might only be for a series of weeks or months, but it probably is really quite important. And the HR project manager plays a kind of hybrid role between being a performance management kind of subject matter expert on behalf of the HR team, and also a classic project manager who runs project plans and keeps them on track and keeps the project team informed. So the project manager will probably need to know enough about the strategic purpose of whatever the project is, so whether it's a new system, for instance, or a new process or a reorganisation, to make really rapid decisions and to guide the project team. But they also need to be able to build a good project plan and to drive action and results. And all of that takes obviously time and effort. And the reason to dedicate a project manager to this project ideally is that I've seen lots of examples of people trying to do this on top of their day job, which is just not a great recipe for success. So the next role, if you are doing a systems project, is to have an HR systems manager. If you're not doing a systems project, you probably don't need this role, but if you are, this person is the key interface really between the HR project team and the IT department. So they play a really critical role and ideally would have a foot in both camps. And as well as having very technical skills and knowledge, they need really great communication skills and will be great at working in collaboration with the internal team and also with any external team that you might need to be working with. So for instance, with your external provider. Again, if your project is a systems project, you will definitely need either a or a number of systems administrators. And these people will over time become the most knowledgeable about the new system that you are putting in place. So ideally, you'd obviously want them to have a real interest in systems and in reporting and data, even if their main day job is actually as an HR generalist, which does sometimes happen. Ideally, you want them to have a really strong attention to detail. And also, ideally, you want them to have a really good understanding of the culture of the organisation, so that they know how the decisions that they are making on your system will impact on the individuals and the organisation and the culture change that you are driving. So there's a really important role in a change management specialist, and that might be somebody with a communications background or somebody in your training department, but somebody who is responsible for the key aspects of change management. And this person plays a really key role in designing and delivering the people side of the change. And this is often described as the soft side of change, but in my experience, it's a funny name because it's actually often the very hardest side of change, as people can be quite hesitant of change and may need time to get on board and will do so all at different rates. And this person plays an absolutely key role in the project team in making the change actually happen and moving it from project plans on paper to actual practical action that employees will experience. So they should combine a great knowledge of, writing really good communications plans and training plans, and have a really practical understanding of the needs of employees and managers, so they know how best to capture people's attention and interest. In effect, they're the voice of the employee, who will in the end be the recipient of the change. So they should always have that person in mind and be able to put themselves in their shoes. Finally, they should really ideally also have a really great network into the wider HR community, and maybe have the ear of senior leadership, so that they can build an effective army of advocates delivering these messages about your project on behalf of the project team, because that will always be so much more valuable than having to just take all of that on themselves. So let's talk finally about the wider HR representatives, or maybe your HR business partners or wider HR community. Because I'm conscious that I've talked about the project team and the roles the important role that the project team plays, but success cannot and won't happen unless you really grab the attention of a far wider pool of HR representatives, because they will in the end be the long-term owners of this once the project phase is over. And lots of projects, in my experience, fail to become really embedded in the fabric of the organisation because of a lack of ownership and handover to the business as usual owners. And that's obviously a huge shame. So my top tip: involve them early, get them invested and interested in this, explain what will be happening so that they can really engage at an early enough time to influence the project where that makes sense, and get them involved. It'll pay dividends in the long run. Hi there, and thanks for listening to this short video on some top tips to do with suggested project roles. So this video sits alongside a document that we have pulled together to explain what we would see as 6 of the classic project roles that you would have for most projects, and the roles and responsibilities within that. Thanks for listening.